away that stone from the entrance of the tomb. Think for me for just a moment about how big that stone was. In Jesus' day, when tombs were used, a circular stone weighing anywhere from 1 to 2 tons was used to cover the entrance. That's huge, huge. So after a person had died, they were placed in the tomb, and then this huge stone was rolled down a channel of sorts, down to the front of the tomb to seal it. And in that sealing, to separate life from death. So this morning, very early, when the sun was about to rise, the women went walking to the tomb. And they were focused on that huge stone. Who will roll it away for us? They certainly would have trouble doing it themselves. They were eager to get into the tomb to properly anoint Jesus. But they were focused on that big stone. Think of all those stones that had their attention that day. Those stones of the past week that were calling to their memory. Those stones that kept them focused on the power of death. They came expecting to anoint a dead body as their last act of love for Jesus. Their minds and hearts were filled with the belief that death has the last word, that evil had won. The stones in their hearts were weighing them down so much. Stones of grief and loss, anger, fear, lots of confusion. They must have felt that life was still the same. They were not expecting anything new. We know about those stones, don't we? To begin with, you'd rather not me even say that word death this morning on Easter, because we're uncomfortable with death itself and what we call the end of life. We have all kinds of stones that we place in our hearts that separate us from death and life. We want to minimize our pain and discomfort. There are all kinds of other deaths in our lives that keep our focus as well. In our own personal journey, we may tend to focus on our troubles, our difficulties, the struggles that we are facing, even the darkness in our lives. Sometimes it may even feel like daily life is about surviving and making it safely through another day. Sometimes we may feel like we have placed our own life on hold. Or we feel that numbing sameness as one day unfolds right into the next with no change whatsoever. Those are the kinds of stones in our lives that close us in. And then if that's not enough, our own stuff quickly gets magnified when we hear about the death and darkness in our world, the stones, if you will. This past week, during Passover and Holy Week, yet another shooting, and this time one that's considered a hate crime. And by the way, Two of those who were killed were active United Methodists. So our whole United Methodist family feels the loss. There are all kinds of stones in our world that come at us. Things that we never thought we might ever deal with, like identity theft, or cyberbullying, or economic anxiety, or insecurity in our jobs, or a general spirit of incivility. You can add to the list and it can go on and on and on. Oh, it is so easy for us to focus on our stones. Big stones, small stones. All those things in our lives which weigh us down. And perhaps we are the ones who say today, who will roll that stone away? Who will open up my life? But wait, the story doesn't end here. When Mary and Salome looked up, that huge stone had already been rolled away. And listened to what they were told. Don't be alarmed. You are looking for Jesus of Nazareth who was crucified. Jesus isn't here. He has been raised. Look, this is the place where they laid him. Go and tell the good news. Go and tell the disciples. Go and tell everyone. Listen to the good news. This is Easter. This is our Easter news. The tomb is empty, and there is new life. There is new life beyond the stones. There is no stone too big for God. Hear it. There is no stone too big for God. So go and tell it. And not just that, but go and live it. So let's roll that stone away. Let's roll away all the stones in our lives, all those things that limit us and keep us from living the abundant life that God has given to each of us. Let us receive the joy and the promise of Easter. The good news of Easter is that it is for us. Let's hear some more about it from our friend Chuck.
Why do we as Christians talk so much about Jesus' death? Everywhere we look, in churches, around people's necks, everywhere, death seems to be yelling at us.
In the wilderness, prepare the way of the Lord. Make straight in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill made low. Comfort, oh comfort my people, says your God.
Why do we talk so much about death as Christians?
You know, he really lived a good life.
Yeah, he sure did.
Is the world ultimately a cold place? Does death really have the last word? Perhaps death does have the last word. Perhaps despair is the best response in a world filled with fear and corruption. Light seems to be squeezed out by the darkness. It's easy to be cynical in a world filled with death. Sometimes it seems we relish being cynical about death. But Christ doesn't speak so much about death. God only allows 3 days of such talk. Now, in Mark's gospel, Christ tells his followers 3 times, "I must die." But he speaks 10 times about his resurrection. You see, Easter is Christ reminding us that God hasn't given up on us. The world matters. We matter. And the violence, cynicism, hatred, and oppression, those things will not prevail and they cannot last. And just when you think it's over and lost, just when you think it can't possibly be put back together, hold on, because God is doing a new thing. Renewing, regenerating, reintroducing, restarting, and restoring. Death isn't allowed in. Who is allowed in? Who is allowed to be renewed, restarted, and restored? We are, even us, the same people, only transformed. Can you believe it? Resurrection! Now God says that when the greed and oppression and cruelty that you see and witness all around you, it seems like it's gonna win, it is right then that resurrection occurs. And God wins, Christ wins. Resurrection.
Oh, window.
Go watching it.
Oh, window.
Go watching it.
Oh, window.
Saints go watching it.
Oh, window.
Go watching it.
We are Easter people. Now God says to live like Easter people. People that know that death does not have the last word. People that live on this side of the resurrection. We are Easter people! We are Easter people!
Oh, window.
Go watching it.
Oh, window.
Saints go watching it.
Yeah. I want to be in that number 2, y'all. Yeah. I want to be in that number 2, y'all.
Happy Easter, Easter people.
We are Easter people. Roll that stone away. Christ is risen. We are Easter people. Alleluia. Amen. Let's sing our faith, joining in